Danny, we mentioned Liverpool. How much reinvention did we see from Jurgen Klopp's side last night?
I wouldn't use the word reinvention. I thought there was.
Well, he did.
I know. I think there was a mindset change. It seemed to me that the intensity was back. They dominated Ajax in long periods of that game and had loads of chances. I thought Thiago and Matip coming in helped hugely. Matip's ability coming out from the back calms everybody down. He plays the right pass so often. Very underrated, Matip. And Thiago, I mean, we know how good he is and what he brings. Those two helped hugely, and the majority of that performance looked like Liverpool last season. Now, I'm not suggesting that they fixed everything overnight, but to beat Ajax, whose away record over the last couple of years has been phenomenal, by the way, and beat them comfortably. I know they had needed a late goal, but the chances...
Beat them comfortably?
Well, in terms of possession, goals, goal attempts, goals, shots on target, touches in the opposition box, all those numbers, absolutely dominant in every way. I mean, when you're playing in the Champions League, you are going to have the occasional attack from the opposition who's going to have players who can hurt you. They wouldn't be in the Champions League otherwise. But if you were watching that game last season, you would say it was a comfortable win. The reason we overanalyzed last night and a couple of chances Ajax had is because of Liverpool's recent performances. It wasn't perfect, but very, very few performances are. But ultimately, the Champions League group stage, anyway.
Yeah.
The level of performance.
Did you think Liverpool were authoritative, Jim? Did you recognise the Liverpool dominance in games, bouncing back from very poor performances?
I think at 1-1 in the last few moments, it could have gone either way.
Well, at 1-1, any game, the game can go either way. That's true.
Yeah, but that's not the picture you're painting. You're painting a picture that's a side because Liverpool last year dominated teams.
It never felt like Liverpool were in trouble. Never.
1-1 in the last 10 minutes, Danny. I mean,
to be fair, you're talking about the Daily Blind chance, the header at the back stick on the breakaway.
Yeah.
That was their only other opportunity in the goal, and the goal was a wonder strike. But, I mean, Liverpool didn't defend well for the goal. I'm not suggesting that. But overall, when you look at the chances they created, especially, I mean, first half, they had a spell where they're missing chance after chance. The game should have been dead at half-time.
Yeah. Well, post-match, Klopp said they were a completely different side.
I think if you put the two games, Napoli and tonight, next to each other, you don't recognize properly that it's the same sport. So it's all different. Start was different, middle was different, finish was different. The football we play, the way we defend, everything was different. Much higher intensity, much more aggression, braver, more ready. Everything was better. So it was the first step, nothing else, not more, but everything was better.
I don't know about you, Sam. I mean, I think it's relief all round. When you saw the players on the pitch last night, and Klopp didn't do the interaction that he normally involved himself with the Kop at the end. He did to an extent, but didn't get carried away like he can do. And they loved that moment. I think it was all right. We got there.
Well, it's one step.
We got there.
It's one small step, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to go on a run of games playing with that level of intensity and getting some results before you feel like you're through this little bad spell. I have to say, one thing I should point out is I thought Salah his quality is unquestionable, but his attitude, I don't know if you remember the first minute of the second half, whether you watched the game properly or you just saw the highlights. He sprinted back, got back in his own box to block the centre forward having a chance, and I was thinking
someone's had a kick up the backside.
Someone's had a kick up the backside, yeah.
Yeah.
And he looked at it, and that's great for Liverpool fans. Took his goal well, could have scored another. The one he miskicked at the near post, normally he bangs away. But his whole body language, everything looked sharp.
It's interesting how, watching the commentators of the game, how they build a narrative to defend individual players. The reasons why Trent Alexander-Arnold should be excused is because he's good going forward and Jordan Henderson wasn't there to help him out, as opposed to just really bad defending, really real lack of awareness about danger. And ultimately outcomes that cost teams goals.
I think it's become a little bit, and I maybe have been guilty in the past of papering over certain cracks or not being overly critical of Liverpool because of the Liverpool connection. I think we do see that in the media. I say media, ex-Liverpool people in the media, and I'm one of them. But I think more recently there's been an honesty about it. I saw Robbie Fowler be really brutal and honest about Liverpool's defending and the attitude last week in the Napoli game, for example. He didn't hold back.
Well, it's a good point, Danny, because Rafa van der Vaart, who played here for a spell, said pre-match, I think we've become a bit blindsided by Liverpool, which is exactly what you're saying. We suddenly think Jordan Henderson's a crazy player. He's a very normal player. James Milner's a very normal player. Joe Gomez is a very normal player. Van Dijk is top. The right back and left back are good. But if things don't go well and the attackers don't have their day, then I think this is a mediocre team.
No, that's a completely different subject matter to the one we were talking about.
Why? People no longer fear Liverpool, I think is what he's saying.
Oh,
and that includes Ajax, and it very much includes Napoli.
Well, I don't believe that. I think teams go to Anfield now and still feel inferior and struggle.
Did you think that last night with Ajax?
I mean,
Simon,
you've only got to look at Liverpool's record at home to the numbers and the points they've gained there and the performances tell you that teams are intimidating.
I think Ajax are a team that are winning games in confident fettle. They're in the Champions League, so they'll approach Liverpool with a degree of trepidation and wariness. Whether that transcends to fear is a different matter. They'll be aware of what Liverpool are capable of doing. They'll also be aware of the fact that they are a winning team themselves and go into the Champions League games with a mentality of having just smashed Rangers and going to Liverpool thinking Liverpool might be slightly fragile.
Well, they hadn't lost on the road for a long time, so of course they had a degree of confidence.
Yeah.
But in terms of Van der Vaart, I mean, he's spouting a bit of nonsense.
He's mixing it up a little bit.
He's mixing it up. If you want to tell me, if you want to look at Liverpool's consistency over the last 4 years and what they've achieved, 4 to 5 seasons, and tell me that Jordan Henderson hasn't been a huge...
I think he's talking about this season, though, and the start that Liverpool have made in the Premier League.
And you can make an argument.
He's not saying that. The comments aren't talking about this season.
I think he's referring to this
Well,
season.
if he is, fair enough, because it's been a poor
He's picking
start.
out players that people are lionising. People are suddenly catapulting James Milner and Jordan Henderson to mythical status. And there is an element... Well, that's what he sees it as. And we're looking back, and when you talk about Liverpool over the last couple of years, they did put a pretty dire defence of their title in. There was a lot of injuries, so we've got to be cool. I know Liverpool fans will be up in arms because you can't dare criticise
but then
Liverpool.
you're talking about the same players that then last season produced an unbelievable season where they were ultimately 2 games away from greatness.
But this season, Van der Vaart's right, is he not? We've become a bit blindsided by them.
I think we'll still see Liverpool competing at the top and for the trophies at the end of the season.
Okay.
So Van der Vaart, they might come back to bite him. Those words. I think they're a bit premature.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.